And the first night we were there, we got mortared. So we were down in the bunkers the whole night as all these mortars are going off. We were running low on ammunition, and we were thinking, this is not good, because they had us flanked on both ends, and we couldn't get past them. It was such heavy fire. So we called in Cobras, and they came in. A B-40 rocket, it exploded on our boat, and I got about the size of a good-sized marble chunk in my neck. Yeah. Well, then the second one, that was the bad one. That came right through the bulkhead of the boat, blew out a chunk out of my elbow, and then went into my lung. So then I had to collapse lung. I was having a hard time breathing.
This is Jimbo from the YouTube channel Jimbo, South Dakota, and this is the Hog House Chronicles podcast. And next to me here today, I have Al Sandvig. He's a neighbor of ours. We go to the same church together and stuff. And I approached him a couple months ago about doing one of these, and he thought about it for a while and thought that he'd like to do it. So I really appreciate that you're going to do this. And welcome to the Hog House. His first time in here. So
right. Thanks for having me.
You bet. Yeah. So we're just going to go into this slowly, and why don't you just go ahead and tell us a little bit about your growing up, whatever you want to about your family, and we'll move on from there.
Well, I was born and raised on a farm in Canton, South Dakota. There's 5 members of my family, siblings. I have a brother and 3 sisters, and went to a rural school, probably about 20 kids. And then in high school, I went to Augustana Academy, which is in Canton. And after that, I attended college for a while. I went to South Dakota State. And then after that, I went and joined the Navy.
So you joined?
Yeah, I did.
Okay. That's what I was wondering. We're going to get to if you were drafted or you joined.
No, I joined for 4 years, I guess it was supposed to be, but it didn't work out that way.
What year was that?
I went in 1968 and went through basic training and went through some schooling there, and then volunteered for a river duty over in Vietnam.
You volunteered for river duty
in
Vietnam. See, we spoke for a while here beforehand, and I got a little bit of information, but I'm getting most of it here same time as you.
Yeah.
That's pretty amazing because like I told you over there, just based on the Rambo movies and crap we've seen, basically the deal of staying away from the river in particular. So talk about your thought process on volunteering for that position.
I just couldn't see myself, after I joined the Navy, I just couldn't see myself sitting on a ship out in the ocean. I wanted to be a little more active, and Vietnam was going on, so I thought maybe if there's some way, maybe I could do that. And I heard about this river on, and I thought it might be kind of interesting, something different,
to say the least.
Yeah. And so I got involved in that, and
did you make that decision, or you knew you had that decision made, or they knew you had that decision made before you got trained to go over there? Was there any special training you had? before going
Yeah,
over there?
yeah. I found out about it and uh, requested to do this, and they put me through a series of tests, and then I got the training. We started in Vallejo, California, which is just a little ways from San Francisco,
Mm-hmm.
and we trained trained there. We took a SEER training, which is survival, evasion, assault, and
Resistance and
resistance, and that. Yeah,
escape. Mm-hmm.
and so that was I really liked that. I knew I was doing what I wanted to do, and it was a little different than I thought. I didn't realize the extent of some of the training that we went through. They actually put us in a mock-up prison camp, and we kind of laughed about it when we got there. We thought this is kind of funny,
Mm-hmm.
it we knew it was a mock-up, but then once the gates opened and we got in there, it got to be real, including slapping you and pushing you to the ground, and all of a sudden it wasn't so funny.
Mm-hmm.
And it was real.
Yeah.
I mean, it wasn't real, but it felt real. And
Do you remember how many days that was, the training itself?
it was. I think it was like a week or so in a prison camp,
Mm.
and it was kind of unreal. It was. I know they had some officers on all fours barking like dogs, and these are commissioned officers, and they weren't afraid of backhanding you and just basically pushing you around. They never actually beat you, but I mean, it was real.
And I didn't tell you this ahead of time, but I've been through that.
Oh yeah.
On the Air Force side.
Okay.
It was a little bit shorter, because it just was.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, they had like stress positions they could put you in.
Mm-hmm.
They had probably a lot of things, don't need to tell everybody, but basically barrels with things. They would put you in positions.
Yep.
And instead of actual punishments and beatings, like you're saying, things that were very uncomfortable, to try to get your mindset for resistance. That's the third letter of the SEER:
Right.
survival, evasion, resistance, and escape.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, that's interesting.
Yeah, they locked us in boxes where you had to get down on all fours. You couldn't stand up,
Mm-hmm.
and they locked you in there, and they also put us down in the ground. Actually, it was pitch dark in there. That's what I didn't like about it. It was down in dirt, and we stayed down there all night. And I was a little worried about that one because I'm a little claustrophobic.
Right.
But I just closed my eyes and pretended like I was in a normal bed and tried to get myself through it, and I did. But we had a couple of guys that flipped out, and they were taken out.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, it wasn't a joke. And I remember when we got through with it, they played the national anthems, and there were some guys crying.
Oh, yeah.
So it definitely affected you.
Mm-hmm. And it'll affect you the rest of your life.
Yeah.
Good, bad, or indifferent.
Yeah.
The thing I realized was the amount of internal pride.
Yep.
Not self-pride, but pride in the country.
Yep. Absolutely.
Mm-hmm. And you learned. So, God forbid anybody gets in that situation, but at least you had some experience in battling, the phobias that you have.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it was very stressful. I know that.
Yeah.
And then we were one of our jobs there was we had to cut wood with the old 2-man saw and
Yeah.
stuff like that, and make campfires and stuff. And so when I was pulling back on the saw, my hand slipped, and then I got cut on my hand pretty bad, so they had to stitch that up.
Oh man.
So they were a little bit easier on me after that, because they were worried they were going to break that open and have blood all over it.
Sounds like really that a lot had not changed in 20 years from what you're saying and from what
Is that what you did too? Yeah.
The only thing I remember when I was pulling on that saw, I was wearing a gunny sack dress because I'd gotten in trouble earlier. And I had my foot up on the log and I'm pulling and, dingleberries hanging in there. Then I got in trouble for that too.
Yeah, that was.
But I didn't get cut.
Yeah, that could have been bad.
But yeah, that was, it was pretty intense. Do you remember how they brought you into the POW camp portion of it, or did they just walk you through the gates and just start?
They just walked us in. Well, we were kind of single file and walked in.
Mm-hmm.
And as we walked in, there was guards on both sides of us with very intimidating looks.
Right. Yeah, they had us in buses.
Oh, okay.
1 or 2 buses, and then we're just driving along. But then they had these trenches with all these vehicles and Jeeps below ground level. Okay. So they all popped up and took our bus over. So then it got real after that.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't scare real easily, but I was surprised at the feeling I had after a while. It was like, it was real. I didn't think I would be like that. Mm-hmm. So I was more attentive after that and started really taking it serious, because we were really joking around thinking this is a bunch of bull. This is a waste of time, but actually it was probably a good thing.
Yeah. Well, we had the Cold War thing going on when I went through. So, I mean, I took it pretty seriously and stuff, but I mean, Vietnam was going on when you were going through.
Yeah.
So that's which explains how much longer it was. Yeah. But also the seriousness, and that kudos to them that even going in with a doubtful mind, they were able to convince you that it was real.
Yeah. I heard later that they had professional actors in there. Yeah. And they were very good because it was very believable. That was the part that surprised me. I just didn't think it would be that believable, but it was. Right. I wasn't expecting to be backhanded.
Oh yeah.
And I don't know how you received that, but something about a backhand that really makes you mad.
Oh yeah.
Or kind of scared in a way too. But yeah.
Yeah, I was in an interrogation once. I think it was, they do the good cop, bad cop thing. Yeah. But having this huge guy come in and grab and shake you, I think they got, for safety wise, they ended up having to bring a towel in. They'd put up your collar, and then they'd roll the whole thing up with your shirt and the collar. Yeah. Then this big dude would just pick you up and just shake you all over the place without giving you.
They got a lot of techniques. They got. Yeah.
Yeah. Right. Cold water straight to the face from behind you. Yeah. Rolls back your eyelids and stuff. Yeah. But,
yeah. They didn't do any. What do they call that? It's illegal now, but waterboarding. Yeah, they didn't do that.
No.
But
no. Before we go any farther, did anybody else in your family serve in the military?
Both of my brother-in-laws did, but that's as much as family-wise as it went.
Okay.
But no, my dad almost did, but he was a little bit too young for World War II, so he was going to go in, but then the war ended, so we didn't need him. So that was the end of that. But
right.
I didn't have any grandfathers or uncles or anything. Mm-hmm.
So it was just on your own volition. When you got to that age, you just thought that you would like to join the military.
Yeah, I did. I thought I'd like to see the world, but then when Vietnam was going on, I'm kind of a patriotic guy, And I just kind of wanted to join the fight. I didn't want to sit out in the middle of the ocean and not doing anything.
Mm-hmm.
I just kind of wanted to do it.
Well, it speaks to you so much for just wanting to join in the first place instead of trying to find ways to not go in.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah,
pretty amazing. You see movies about that, but they seem to be farther back in U.S. history to have that kind of patriotism where, if a young guy had something medical where he couldn't go in, that it just haunted him,
Yep.
Kind of thing. And I'm sure there's the same kind of people in every generation, but some of them are harder to come across than others, and
Yeah.
you're one of those.
My brother he always wanted to join, but he had bad feet. He wanted to join the Army, and they wouldn't take him. And that always affected him during his lifetime.
Yep.
He always thought
So there's
about
another
that.
one.
Yeah, he wanted to join. And he didn't get to because he was physically unable, and it always kind of haunted him.
Right. How many brothers did you have?
I just have one.
Ed.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, he's passed on now, but
Oh, he has.
yeah, he died in March.
Oh
So,
man, sorry to hear that.
Yeah, thanks.
Yeah, they at one point you had a lot of your family and siblings move back here, and that's about the time we had joined the church over here.
Oh yeah,
And
yep.
we had just heard through other people that know everybody that the Sandvig family was regathering and stuff. I just thought that was so cool.
Yeah,
But yeah, I'm sorry to hear of Ed's passing. He was a great guy.
yeah. He was. This does. It doesn't happen very often where all the family comes back to the original home, and basically everybody lived right around our former farm.
Uh-huh.
So it was nice.
Are you on the home place? of
No,
your family?
I'm not. But I'm on a Fussum place, which is a relative of mine. So there is some connection there. But no, I'm not living on the home place.
What was the hardest part of your training, the pre-training before you went overseas? Maybe what you mentioned already. I don't know.
Probably the hardest part was being away from family. I had never really been away from the family before that for very long, and that was the only time that it stretched in a couple of years, and that was kind of hard. And I didn't get to go home, when we were over in Nam or anything. So I hadn't seen my parents for almost 2 years before I finally got home.
Mm-hmm.
So that was the hardest for me. I missed some of my friends and family.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
What was your journey like once you got done with all your training stateside and then going over there, and then when you first stepped off the plane? Just go ahead and describe all that.
Actually, it was while I was on the plane when it kind of hit me. We flew to, I think it was Japan, where we had to refuel. And then it was during the night, and then we got back up in the air, and then we flew for quite a while, and then lights came on, and the stewardess came out and said, "We're now over Vietnam." And then the sun had come up by then, and we looked down and saw that jungle, and I was thinking, man, this is real now.
Mm-hmm.
I'd seen the movies and everything like that, and I always thought about it, but it wasn't real. But now it was real, and we got down, and we didn't have our regular fatigues on. We had to have our navy blues on. That was regulation. And
Really?
Those are wool. So we got off the plane at probably 90 degrees, and just sweat right away. So I remember taking off my shirt and just balling it up because it was so hot with that wool stuff on, because we went over in November, and it was supposed to be the winter,
Mm-hmm.
uniform. And we got off there, and then we had to get in line, get our boats, and well, we had to stay the night off base. Well, it was actually on base, but it was way out on outer limits of it. And the first night we were there, we got mortared. So we were down in the bunkers the whole night as all these mortars are going off. Because when I got over there, it was right in probably the peak of the war. There was like 500 and some thousand troops over there. And they were having a lot of trouble. They were being overrun in a lot of bases and stuff. So we didn't have a whole lot of time to, do anything other than get ready for battle. And then we got our boats the next morning and went right out on an operation. I mean, there was no breaking in anything. You got your gun, you got your ammo. You made sure you had all your ammo by you, and everything was ready to roll. And that's what we did. I got split up from my crew that I trained with, and so they put me on another boat. So I didn't know these guys. They had evidently lost one of the guys, and they replaced him with me. And so that was kind of a bummer for me because I trained with these guys and I knew them and I knew how they reacted. And I came on this boat and they just lost somebody and they weren't in a good mood.
No.
And so it was kind of rough at start. Nobody knew me. I didn't know them. And we went out on an operation right the same day. And we didn't get in a firefight, but we went right out and then stayed out for a couple of days and then came back. And then, so that was my introduction to Vietnam. It was pretty sudden, faster than I thought it would be. I figured there'd be a couple of days of indoctrination or something. Nothing like that.
Mm-hmm.
It was right on and get your gun and go. So it was kind of a surprise that way. I figured there'd be a little bit more breaking you in, but there was no breaking in. It was
in briefings.
Nope, nothing. And so then after that, I kind of got to know the guys a little bit because we had a couple of days where we tied up to the mothership and just sat and talked and found out where everybody's from and kind of got to know each other a little bit, which helped. And went from there. So,
were you trained for a specific position on the boats, or were you able to fill any position on the boat, or what were the positions?
We were trained on all of them. There was radio men. Well, I wasn't trained to be the captain, but I was trained for radios. I was trained for all the guns. We had 4 50 calibers, 4 30 calibers, had 2 20 millimeters, and a M79 grenade launcher. And so I was trained on all those. I know how to do all of them. And also steering the boat, starting the boat, and all that stuff. So I was trained for everything except being a captain. So, yeah, that's kind of the nice thing about it. If somebody went down, then you just took over their position if you had to.
Right. So was there a specific mission for your boats being on the river there? Or what was the mission of the boat itself?
Well, there's actually several. One of them was just patrolling. We had to check sandpans for guns, weapons, anything, ammunition. So we'd have to do sampan checks. Other times we went out in groups and we carried troops to certain designated areas. And other times we drug for bombs because they would gather up bombs that B-52s had dropped and didn't detonate, and they would take those and put them in the rivers in certain places, and they would have they would be connected to the shore somehow, some wire or something. So we were dragging along the river to try to catch those wires and detonate those bombs so they wouldn't, the boat that was designated to do the dragging for the bombs was always close to the edge of the river, because a lot of times they would put them in the middle of the river, because that's usually where we traveled, was in the middle of the river.
Mm-hmm.
So that's where they put the bombs. So we would go along the edges dragging and try to trip the wire and detonate that bomb.
Dragging right behind your boat, or did you have like outriggers?
Yeah, it was behind our boat. We drag them. We just reel it out and drag it.
Wow.
Yeah. So we had, and other times we carried troops, like I said. Other times we did special ops, they'd call them, I guess you'd call them, where we'd go in the middle of the night carrying these, I don't know what they were, if they were mercenaries, or if there's special forces, I don't know what they wouldn't tell us. We didn't ask because they weren't very talkative.
Yeah. They weren't going to tell you.
No, they weren't
anyway.
going to tell us. And we'd take them up the Cambodian border and drop them off. And then when we'd drop them, usually we'd come back the next day or whatever at night. It's always at night. And they would have certain signals with flashlights along the bank, and it had to be the right code. Otherwise, we wouldn't come in.
Mm-hmm.
And they would bring us in, and then we'd pick them up and bring them back.
When you're dragging for bombs, did any detonate?
We didn't, but yeah, others had done that.
Mm-hmm.
We lost, in one operation, we lost a boat by a bomb.
So was that the intent, was to drag, hit the wire, and then it would detonate?
Right.
Just to get rid of that danger. Okay.
That's what it was.
So you didn't have any do that then?
No, we didn't. I didn't see anything blow up, but I know it did on other boats. But it was they usually did that. They knew where we were going to go during the day, so they'd do this right before. The lead boat would be the dragon for the bombs, and he'd be out a ways from the rest of the boats.
Right.
And then if one went off, it was a good thing that it would just blow up and nothing happened.
Yeah, because you're obviously watching traffic, making sure nobody's in the way when you're doing that.
Yep.
Have a certain amount of distance ahead of them, behind you.
Yep.
Mm-hmm. Man.
Yeah, we also had what they call monitor boats. I don't know if you're familiar with that.
Mm-mm.
They shoot fire.
Oh wow.
But, yeah, they would blow fire. I would guess probably almost 100 feet into the. Sometimes the VC would. They'd be into the side of the bank, so you couldn't see them.
Right.
But they would be firing away at you. So if they found a spot that they were pretty sure that's where they were firing from, they would blow it and just burn them right out.
Mm-hmm.
And they did that.
And that was a boat that did that?
Yeah.
So they just run up to the shore, go along it.
Yep. And fire it.
Like 10 to 30 miles an hour or so, and just
Yeah, it was even
sweep across
slower than that.
and just
Yeah.
wow.
And just fire it and burn them out. And they got to know what monitors were, and they stayed away from them. They left their post when they saw that thing coming.
Oh, I'm sure.
So yeah, it was. Yeah, we had a lot of different, and we had on our boats. They're basically like those old World War II on our boats. Those old World War II where they beach the troops.
Mm-hmm.
It was basically that boat, except we had a flight deck on it for helicopters, and so we could carry a lot of things. Plus, when somebody's wounded, or dead, could come in and get them and take off, which was really nice. So yeah, we had ours was mainly a troop carrier, and they had fuel boats. They just specifically carried fuel, and we carried troops most of the time. And then others were like PBRs. I don't know if you know what they are, but they're like a speedboat, and they had a couple of 50s on them, and they were very fast. And they're really the speedboats of the whole unit. and they would if we needed something done fast, we'd get those guys, and they would get right to it.
Mm-hmm.
We couldn't. Our boats were kind of slow, but we were heavily armored, and we had a lot of firepower on those boats.
Did you ever have air support come
Yes.
in? Are you able to call in the air support
Yes.
each boat individually, or did you need something?
No,
higher
we
up?
all had we could all talk to get air support,
Nice.
and that's what we did. I know this one time we got in a lot of trouble. There was thousands of NVA that we ran into that were waiting for us, I guess. They knew we were coming up the river, and we fought for, I don't know, it was almost a whole day during the night and into the next day, and we were running low on ammunition, and we were thinking, this is not good, because they had us flanked on both ends,
Mm-hmm.
and we couldn't get past them. It was such heavy fire. So we called in Cobras, and they came in, and they really helped a lot. They busted it up so we could get out of there, because we were darn near out of ammunition. We were down to our M16s, and we had a couple of weapons we took off of POWs, machine guns. We didn't know if they were Chinese or Russian, but we used them. It had a 50-round clip in it.
Yeah, probably doesn't take very long to run out of ammo when you're in those
No.
hot situations.
No, we had on our boats, we had it lined with, the box of metal boxes. We had it lined on both sides of the boats full of ammo, and we were all out of that. All our machine guns are down.
Mm-hmm.
So could have been hand-to-hand combat if we had run out of, everything.
Right.
So
And most of your air support was helicopter, or was some of it?
sometimes they had a jet come in, but these Cobras were sort of jets. I mean, they had that jet engine on them.
Right. Very fast.
Very fast.
Yet can still hover and
Yep.
spray
They were
circular if they need to.
they were awesome.
I love the sound of all aircraft, but choppers in particular.
Yep.
And so, what are some of your other experiences that come to mind?
In Vietnam,
Yeah.
I remember we did some, I guess you'd call it PR. We'd stop in villages and hand out food to the villagers. And a lot of times when we went through a village, sometimes the rivers are very small and very wide, and there are people lining both sides. When we came through, they always lined the banks, and especially kids, and they'd make gestures towards their mouth like food, and so we'd throw out our sea rats to them.
It's got to be heartbreaking.
Yeah, they're hungry kids. So we would do that. Sometimes we'd stop and talk to the people. And I remember this, it was really touching. This elderly lady motioned us to come into her little hut, and that's what it was. It was a thatched hut. And she told us, come on in, I got something for you. And so we went, a couple of us went in there, and here she had some dried fish that she had made, and she handed us some dried fish. I wasn't sure if I wanted to eat it or not, but I did.
Mm-hmm.
And it wasn't too bad, but then I remember looking down and I could see fleas all over inside there.
Right.
But we just kind of ignored it and tried to be, as nice as we could.
Yeah. There's got to be some certain amount of paranoia also for you to go in there.
Yeah.
What kind of thought patterns went through, or what did you talk with your buddies about with that subject when somebody wanted to show you something?
Yeah, we did talk about that beforehand, and we thought, well, we're going to do what we got to do, so let's do it. Mm-hmm. I mean, you can't be afraid all the time. And a lot of those people were really nice.
Right.
So,
Yeah, you weren't worried about them fighting for the other side.
No, I mean, you thought about it, but you try to put that kind of out of your mind.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know, I was really touched by that older lady.
Right. Yeah, I interviewed my uncle last year, and he had 2 tours in Vietnam in the Army. He was a communications guy, and that was one of the biggest things he talked about was just the kids.
Yep.
None of them asked for it. The elderly people,
Yep.
all the suffering and
Yep.
things, and
Yeah, a lot of those older, especially the ladies, it seemed like they didn't have any teeth, and they would chew this. I don't know what it was. It was some kind of. It was dark red because I remember it dripped out of their mouths, and we all always thought they were bleeding. But somebody finally told us that no, they're not bleeding. They chew this. It's kind of a drug type stuff, and it kills your pain. And I suppose they have bad teeth,
right.
so they had a lot of pain, and this dulled the pain.
Yeah.
So that was another thing I never knew existed,
Mm-hmm.
and it does in those third world countries.
Right. I suppose it acted as a topical, and then
Yeah.
maybe still also getting in their bloodstream
Yeah.
for pain relief.
Right.
Pretty primitive.
Yeah. I mean, yeah. When you get in countries like that, you realize how good we have it.
Yeah. Yeah, no doubt. Now, did you have any off time over there?
Not a lot. The most we'd have maybe 2 days. They'd come in for 2 days. You'd be on the mothership, and you could kind of relax and yeah. Well, a couple of times we did go in country. Not very often. I mean, maybe twice. We got to go in town. Just walked in. We had an M16 on our shoulder and went in town. And a couple of times we weren't supposed to, but we did anyway. And went in there and had a few beers with the locals, and they were always very receptive.
Right.
I mean, they almost welcomed us in, which was surprising to me.
Well, we all know that there's a difference between the populace and the government
Absolutely,
of every country.
That's right.
Every country out there.
Exactly.
We see it. We see it here as well. There's a
Yep.
lot of good people in this country.
There is.
It's just sad that the loudest ones are not those folks, and
Yeah,
and it can hopefully not, but sometimes it can indoctrinate other people.
that's right.
It's got to be
I noticed that when my wife and a couple of our friends, we went to Mexico a couple of times, and even the Caribbean, we went there, and the locals, they were great people. They're nice, and it's just the governments that screw everything up. Isn't that always the case?
right.
The people are good, and the governments are not. So,
Yeah. So the less government control over the populace, the better.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yep.
I didn't bring it over here. We've got some of your certificates and things here, and but you have a shadow box over there, and I knew that you had received a Purple Heart. What I didn't know, and that I saw in the shadow box over there, is 2 Purple Hearts.
Yes.
Why don't you go ahead and go through the situation for the first one for us?
First one, we were out on ops, and they threw a B. No, I forgot. What is that? B-40 rocket.
Mm-hmm.
That's what it was. A B-40 rocket. It exploded on our boat, and I got about the size of a good-sized marble chunk in my neck. And so I had to go do the mothership because they had surgeons and stuff, and they had to cut it out. And it wasn't terrible. I mean, it wasn't anything that damaged much. It just stuck in my neck.
Did they say it was like an inch or a half inch from your
It
spine, or
was right back here in the back part of my neck.
pretty close to it then?
Yeah, it was. But we tried it. My boat mates tried to get it out.
Oh yeah.
Because
Did you ask them to?
Yeah, well, I said, I could feel it. It was a big, like a ball back there. And it was bleeding, but not terrible.
So
but
it didn't knock you down
No.
or anything like that?
it hurt. But I mean, I wasn't, spazzing out about it. So I told him, I said, try squeezing it. Maybe it'll pop out. But it didn't. And so they said, you got to go get it fixed. So we did. They flew me out and went to the mothership, and they have surgeons there, so they surgically took it out. I told the surgeon about that. We tried to get it out, but we couldn't. He said, no, we can't do that. So,
that reminds me of a common friend of ours. We were talking over there, Paul Haish. Shout out to you, Paul. Does that sound familiar?
Yeah.
There's a story with, I'll just quickly say it. We had a truck here with some engine problems, and Paul was here, and the pasture was freshly mowed and everything, and baled. And he goes underneath of there, and he's reaching up with his hand, and he pulls down with his hand fairly quickly, and comes out. Well, he felt something here, but it was a piece of like thick grass, like a straw, like 1.25 inches or so, and it just embedded right in here, and then it closed up.
Yeah.
He, of course, never said anything to us about it, and he's like this and that. Well, we have a friend named Jose. He's a veterinarian, and it's like a week later, and Paul's like, man, this thing's just really... and so Jose come over there, and he's going to start taking that out. And Paul's grandkids are there, a couple granddaughters, and he's like trying to push, and Jose's like, you okay? And Paul's like, well, it doesn't feel good. But then he finally cut the end, was able to push and got it out, and Paul downplays it. And I always describe how long it was, and it was that big around.
Yeah.
And he's like, it wasn't that big. I was like, well, I have the picture of the razor blade laying there with it next door to that, so we know how big that was. But when you're telling the story, that's funny how it reminded me of a common friend, because Paul used to work for you, right? Throwing bales as a kid.
Yeah, he's a great guy. He's funnier than heck. Yeah, that sounds like Paul.
Oh, man. Yeah, your next story, that was like, sounds familiar.
Yeah. Well, you're from the Midwest. You're used to stuff happening. So, yep. Well, then the second one, that was the bad one. That came right through the bulkhead of the boat. And then it was a B-40 rocket. It burns its way through, this is what I've been told. It burns its way through because we had inch steel plates all the way around the boat. Mm-hmm. And it burns its way through there, and then when it gets through the bulkhead, it just sprays everything. And I caught that spray on my left side and blew out a chunk out of my elbow and then went into my lung. So then I had a collapsed lung. I was having a hard time breathing.
Yeah.
And I had some go on my head, and I had some in my left eye, and they had to take that out. And so I was, they flew me to Japan and then eventually to Chicago at Great Lakes Hospital. And I was there a few months. I think I got out in November. I came in June and got out in November, I think it was. Mm-hmm. And then I got a medical discharge because they didn't want me anymore.
Did you lose sight in your left eye then?
I didn't lose total sight. I have light perception. Mm-hmm. So I'm missing my lens. And I think if it would have been done today, they would have replaced that lens and it would have been pretty good.
Right.
But, that was 50 years ago. So they didn't have the technology to do that.
So the technology now, they really can't do anything for you. Have you checked into that, or you just
they could put a new lens in, but I don't know if I want to go through that.
Right.
Just one of those deals. Mm-hmm. I've been in the hospital enough.
Yeah.
So
right.
I don't like hospitals. I mean, I know they're great and I love the people, but I don't like them to be in there.
Oh, no doubt. Well, I can imagine something that can burn through 1 inch of metal, and then busting out the other side and hitting you. I couldn't imagine how that would feel. I mean, we get just a tiny little burn on our finger, and we're just like yelping. And you said it blew a whole chunk out of your elbow then?
Yeah, we can see it there.
Uh-huh.
But, yeah, it felt like a burn.
Yeah.
It was more like a burn. And it knocked me probably 5 or 6 feet across the boat. It had a lot of wallop to it, and they're just shoulder held. They're probably the rocket itself's only about that big,
Right.
and it's amazing how power those things have.
Mm-hmm.
And they still use them today. I see on the news clips. I see those guys running around with those B-40 rockets.
Yeah.
So they're still used.
Were you a little bit off to the side of the penetration point?
Yes, he didn't lead me enough. It's just like shooting pheasants.
Uh-huh.
He didn't lead me quite enough, and fell just to the left of me.
Mm-hmm.
It came through. That's weird.
So if you were right in front of it, you might have been done for.
See that? I was going to tell you, the first time I got hit, the guy that took over my gun got killed with a B-40 rocket.
Yeah.
And it still bothers me that he got my gun and got killed. It still haunts me.
Mm-hmm.
His name was Barry. He was a good guy. Yeah, we learned around the ship, and I was about ready to come back, and somebody said, "Did you hear about your boat?" And I said, "What?" And he said they got hit really bad, and Barry got killed. I said, "Shit." Couldn't believe it. So yeah, I guess.
Yeah, and that's nothing. You feel what you feel. You can't feel guilty about it, but that survivor's remorse is very much alive.
Yeah, never leaves you.
There's even some more neighbors around here that I've talked to. I won't mention his name, but had some of the same stuff going on with. He was being trained for special ops, and they found out he had another skill. They sent him this way, and he went in the military with his buddy.
Yep.
His buddy continued on with the special ops training, and didn't last 2 weeks.
Yep.
So he's still living with that today.
Yeah, I know. It's not a good feeling.
No.
But that's, war, like they say, war is hell, and it is.
Absolutely.
There's nothing glorious. I mean, you see the Rambo movies and stuff. It's just not that.
No.
It isn't. So,
Yeah. Just on the movie subject, I've heard that the most realistic one is Saving Private Ryan. And, of course, that's a different war and stuff. But
yeah.
So
I couldn't get myself to see that movie.
Yeah.
I thought about it, and I just couldn't do it.
no need.
Yeah.
No need at all. I think what we're going to do is we're going to take just a little bit of a break here, and we'll be back, and we've got some awards that you've received, and we'll continue on with whatever else you'd like to talk about as well.
Okay. Sounds good.
All right, we'll be back.
All right.
All right, we're back, and we did some talking, and we're going to continue with the service stories in a little bit here. But first, we're going to go over some of the awards that he's received. And you heard about the medals, the Purple Hearts, and he's paying the price for those. But this one here, I'm going to go ahead and read it. It's from the Commander, United States Naval Forces, Vietnam, and it is a Navy Achievement Medal. I'm going to remove my hat as I read this. The Secretary of the Navy takes pleasure in presenting the Navy Achievement Medal to Alan Lynn Sandvig, Seaman, United States Navy, for service as set forth in the following. Citation: for professional achievement while serving with the United States forces engaged in riverine assault operations against the Viet Cong communist aggressors in the Republic of Vietnam from November 1968 to June 1969. Seaman Sandvig served as a radio man on board a craft attached to River Assault Squadron 15, engaged in support operations with elements of the 2nd Brigade, 9th Infantry Division, United States Army. In that capacity, he participated in numerous combat missions which struck deep into the enemy infested waters of the Mekong Delta, inflicting heavy losses upon the enemy. He also participated in Operation Giant Slingshot, conducting interdiction patrols along known enemy supply and infiltration routes. Despite exceedingly long operational periods, he unfailingly met the requirements of the combat situation with enthusiasm and determination. His efforts were instrumental in keeping his boat in combat operational status and fighting it to its full capability. Seaman Sandvig's exemplary performance and devotion to duty were in keeping with the highest traditions of the United States Naval Service. The combat distinguishing device is authorized. For the Secretary of the Navy, E.R. Zumwalt, Jr., Vice Admiral, U.S. Navy, Commander, U.S. Naval Forces, Vietnam. That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
How were you presented with this?
I was still in the hospital. They just the admiral came in and gave it to me, and did a short talk with him, and then he went on. So.
Okay, and I didn't know that, so I'm glad that we got to read that publicly because that's what needs to happen. Yeah. So yes, appreciate your service on that.
Yeah, thank you.
Let's take a look at a couple more of the things that you have framed there. This is a letter of commendation. Commander of River Assault Squadron 15. It's very similar to what we read there, but yeah, very cool. 15 April 1969, Commander River Assault Squadron, letter of commendation. Okay, and what else do we have over there?
Oh, that's just a Navy Achievement Medal.
Department of the Navy. This is a certify that the Secretary of the Navy has awarded the Naval Achievement Medal to Seaman Alan L. Sandvig, United States Navy, for meritorious service from November 68 to June 69. Secretary of the Navy signed that one. 27th day of March, 1970. And you have one more.
That's the SEER training certificate.
Oh, yeah, I want to see that one.
Yeah, you can identify with that.
Yeah. Now, the most fun survival training that we had that I went through, and the reason I went through it is because our shop did the continuation training for survival training for our pilots. Okay. And the reason was I was in the Guard and full-time Guard, and we did not have SEER instructors for the Air Force. Oh. So everybody, the pilots and F-16 pilots, they would go to that training, but we as a continuation trainers would also go to that, and then we'd get a little bit extra training. Okay. And then none of the POW camp stuff, but just basic land survival, water survival, things of that nature. Mm-hmm. But the most fun one is water survival, and they got my Social Security number wrong on a certificate. So I
really?
was teased about maybe I'll go back and do that one again. You know? But this,
Maybe not.
I would not do again. Definitely not.
They stuck us out in the desert for a week, and then with a knife and a full canteen of water, and that was it. And we had to survive by ourselves. And there wasn't much out there to eat. There was a few snakes, if you're lucky enough to find one. But then it was the time of year when cactus have these bulbs on them, and you can eat them, and they're actually good. They're kind of tart and kind of like jelly, sort of. And so we survived on those. There must be a lot of sugar in them or something because they're kind of sweet and tart.
I wondered if they trained you on different environments because, they did, the survival instructors that did the instructing at the Air Force school have 6 months worth of training on all these environments.
Oh,
and
so
things.
there's a lot of different environments.
Yeah. So I wondered during your training if they basically just took you through the jungle portion, but it sounds like it was a bunch of different environments.
Yeah, it was. And then they had us a lot of swimming stuff too. We'd have to you'd dive down to not dive, but go down to the bottom of the pool and take your pants off and then tie them in a knot and then go up to the top and flip them over, catch air. So they're like a water vest.
Like a life vest.
Life vest.
Right.
Yeah, and we had to do that. I've always been a pretty good swimmer. I'm not a fast swimmer, but I can swim pretty good. So that didn't bother me. But, boy, there's some guys in there just about drowned. They couldn't swim very good.
Right.
And I was glad that I learned to swim because they were in bad shape. And one of the instructors had about a 8-foot bamboo pole. And if they came up and didn't have that tied right, he'd whack them in the head with a pole and say, "Go back down."
Oh, man.
You'd have to redo it. So I only had to do it once. So
Yeah, because you basically had to tie it down at the ankles so that you had enough airspace through the waist and the thighs and the knees in order to get air under there.
And those pools are probably, I'd say they're close to 15 feet deep.
Yeah.
They're deep pools. So, yeah, it was kind of an interesting deal.
Yeah. Well, some of them, if you didn't quite get them totally full of air by flipping them, you could just go under and then blow air from underneath to kind of finish,
help it a
inflating
little bit. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Man. What other survival school experiences do you remember?
Well, we were trained on a lot of different weapons. We had M60 machine guns and 20s and 50s and 30s. We didn't have a lot of small arms. M16s, that's not really a small arm. That was the smallest we had.
Well, smaller than that. I mean, it's almost barely a self-protection weapon.
Yeah, So actually, some guys did carry pistols, and I wish I would have, now that I think of it.
In addition to what you had.
Yeah, because we were in some small rivers with jungle on both sides, and there was a couple of times where I thought we were going to get overrun, and that would have been nice to have a pistol when they're coming over the boat on you.
Right.
Where you could have just, because on 50s, we were on turrets. We could have lifted it off, but most people aren't Rambo, the way he does it.
What were some of the narrowest rivers as far as the bank? Well, how wide was your boat to begin with?
It was about 10 feet, maybe. I don't think it'd be any wider than that.
So how far outside of those edges were some of the narrowest?
Oh, there were some places where you could hop, skip, and jump in the boat.
Really?
There was one time we had a boat captain that was not as good as he should have been. See, that was connected. All these rivers are connected to the South China Sea. So it has tides that go in and out. Well, he wasn't very good at reading tide maps or maps in general.
Yeah.
And he got us in some jams away from the rest of the boats that were with us, and we were out there by ourselves one time, hung up on sand. And so we finally got it off of there, but boy, I tell you, we had all we could do to get it out of there. And we could have been overrun in a second if they would have been out there and saw us doing what we were doing, they would have had us.
You'd have been done.
We'd have been all dead.
How long did it take you to get it off the sandbar?
Close to an hour.
Yeah.
And, an hour is a long time when you're doing stuff like that. And so we got back to the base, thank God, and we put the word out about him,
Mm-hmm.
and he took him off the boat within a week.
Good.
We had to, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
You know what I
guy's got
mean.
his limitations, but it's preservation for the whole unit.
Absolutely.
It's not like it can be personal, but it's not really personal. It's just
No.
operations.
It's your life.
Yeah.
And when you find somebody that's not quite up to the task, it'll kill everybody
Mhm.
in that unit.
Right.
So we had to kind of put the word out that, well, I won't tell you, but
Sure.
you know what I mean.
Yep. Yep.
And they took him off and replaced him with his name was Cuevas. He was from L.A. He's a really smart kid, and he knew what he was doing.
Mhm.
Then we were fine.
Yeah.
But I tell you, one guy that's leading that doesn't lead is not good when you're in battle.
Mm-hmm.
That's when it comes down to either or, and it did. So
Right.
we got rid of him. I mean, we didn't, but the command did.
Right. Right. But you had to let command know,
Yeah, absolutely.
however that's done.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Besides getting wounded, what were some other challenging situations that you had?
I didn't really have too much after that. I mean, when I was in Nam, then I got hit, and then it all changed and went to the hospital. That was
How far into your tour was it that you had the second?
I was probably a year and a half, maybe something like
So
that.
was it a 2-year tour
No.
to begin with, or?
Oh, you mean for the tour of Vietnam?
Oh, I'm sorry, just Vietnam.
Yeah, Vietnam. It was 7 months, 7.5, right in there.
Into it,
Yeah.
and it was a 1-year tour.
Yeah, supposedly, yeah. It might have been more than that.
Would there have been a threat of having to do a second tour based on the job you had or anything? Or
Not a threat, but if the sedatives had been there, I might have,
Mhm.
but I don't know. We had talked about my buddy and Mike. He was from Chicago, and we were talking about when we got out of the Navy that we might want to go to Saudi Arabia and guard the oil wells.
Oh, really?
They-
Contractor money?
Yeah, back in those days, we had heard. I don't know if it's true or not, but we had heard this is 1968. We had heard that you could get $60,000 to $70,000 a year to guard.
Mm-hmm.
So you'd be kind of like you wouldn't be in the Navy. This is after we get out.
Yeah, contractor
Yeah,
stuff.
basically a contract.
And usually a certain amount of that is up to a certain amount is tax-free as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And 70,000 bucks is a lot of money back in '68.
Right.
So yeah, we were all always talking about it. We were going to do that.
How close did it get?
Well, after I got wounded, it was
Well, yeah. It wouldn't have
Yeah.
been a deal after that.
no.
Yeah, just beer talk.
Yeah, it was beer talk. We got to talk about something,
Exactly. Did you have any funny things happen? Whether it's your Vietnam tour or otherwise, we're talking about Paul Hayes a little bit earlier. We'll go again, Paul. Shout out to you. When you were emptying out a rack of hay bales, he had burrowed himself down in there, so you pulled the bale out, and
Yeah.
there was Paul staring
There
at
was
you.
Paul. Nothing that he wouldn't do to get a laugh.
He
Well,
is
but-
still that way.
Yeah. But yeah, he always lightened up the day. So
Yeah.
yeah, my wife used to cut his hair. Did you ever know that?
No.
Yeah, he was too cheap to get a haircut in town. So yeah, he'd ask Sue if she would cut his hair, after we got done hauling. Oh yeah, so she'd go to chop his hair off, and it wasn't real fussy about it.
Well, there's quite a few. Not so long ago, there's quite a few years where he would get one haircut a year. It might have been right before Easter, maybe, or something like that. But I will tell you, on this horseback trip that me and the guys that are wood burned into this bar here, 7 of us, been 28 years have been going out to the Black Hills now. But there was a time where he brought his son Kelly out there.
Oh yeah,
and he made a deal with him that if Kelly behaved the whole time, because that one time he was the only younger fella that went.
Okay.
So he had some rules to go by from Paul.
Yeah.
But if you behaved well at the end of that trip, he was going to get to cut Paul's hair. So I'm going to have to show you some pictures of that, because pretty hilarious. I also got pictures of the other guys watching him get his hair cut.
Yeah.
All the looks on their faces was amazing. But
yeah. Well, he got his shot that way.
Yeah. Oh, man. So what do you think was the most rewarding part of your service?
We had a fellow, he was Vietnamese. He was a Vietnamese Marine. And he was 16 years old. And he had been fighting since he was 12.
Oh, my word.
And he had tattooed in his arm, QVC. And I know darn well that he probably got eliminated once that war stopped.
Yeah, you got something permanent on there like that.
Yeah.
Wow, that's ballsy.
Yeah. But he was the best guy. I tell you, those Vietnamese Marines were awesome. They were really good. The Arbans, not so much. They were regular Army, probably drafted into the war.
Sure.
I'm talking about Vietnamese Army.
Yep.
And but the Marines, those guys were really good troops. You could depend on them. And we always had a lot of fun with him. And I never heard from him after everything got done, so I don't know. But I just hope he made it somehow. Maybe he got to Cambodia or something.
Yeah, hopefully he fled the country.
Yeah.
I mean, he's got to know with that on there.
That's an automatic execution. Yeah. But other than that, wasn't a whole lot of funny stuff that went on.
No, not really. There's some other military people I've interviewed, of course, and there's not quite as intense of service as what you did, so there's a few more stories that way. What have you learned from your highest points in your life to your lowest points in your life? What do you think you've learned out of just those basic experiences, whether it's military or not?
Yeah. I guess the lowest point when I lost that friend, I learned that, when you're young, you feel like you're bulletproof, and you learn you're not. And I learned that, when you're 18, 20 years old, you're pretty cocky. And life is just a kind of a joke, and when you lose a friend when you're 20 years old, it's all it's something you never forget, and you learn that you better appreciate everybody around you and appreciate your country that you live in, because there are a lot of good people under bad regimes that don't have the life we have.
Mm-hmm.
So I learned that, and it was, yeah. And the high point was shortly after I got out of the Navy and married my wife.
Nice. Sue. Mm-hmm. How old were you when you got married?
I was 23.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I got out of the Navy when I was I 22 then? Yeah, I think 22.
Mm-hmm.
And then
Did you know her before? Did she
no.
grow up in the area, or how did you meet?
It was a good friend of mine, Bill Paltier. He, I came back. I was just shortly back, and of course, when you're that age, you're looking for fun and women. and so he said, there's this young gal. She just came to work. She came to the hospital, and she's a lab technician. And he said, she's good looking. You gotta check her out. so he was. Well, she actually bowled with Bill's girlfriend. They bowled together. So I had kind of an in there.
There you go.
So he introduced us, and like to say, the rest is history.
Nice.
There you go.
Yeah.
Yeah, she's just really nice lady.
Yeah.
And we moved in here 32 years ago, and you guys were part of the church that we were going to there, and that's about the time your family was coming in as well too. And and we just on the side, we just heard so many good things about your family. That everybody just thought it was great that they were moving back here, and just thought the world of all of them, Louise and Lanny and Ed and his wife and Sue, and I'm not going to try to name them all, of course.
Yeah.
But people just really thought that was great. So how many years was it that people stayed around, or did some of them move back away, or are they all still around here?
Yeah, Ed and Shirley moved back to Oklahoma. And then, let's see, Louise and Lanny stayed here. They're in Canton. And Helen came back, and she stayed. But her husband died, not too long ago.
Mm-hmm.
So he's not around anymore.
Right.
But yeah, everybody's here except Shirley. In fact, she was up to our lake house this weekend. And had a good time, and her son was with, and we had a good visit about everything. And
she's still down in Oklahoma then?
Yeah, she lives down there. That's kind of where they started. They were there quite a while, and then they moved up here, and then they got some grandkids. Their boys live down there, and decided to go back, which I can't blame them.
Right.
You want to see your grandkids. Mm-hmm. So, I just had a granddaughter that she's a freshman in University of Nebraska now.
Oh,
she's
nice.
So
I heard their football team was kind of coming back, but maybe kind of not. I didn't get to watch any of this. I don't get to watch much college ball. But do you follow?
Yeah. In fact, I went to the Nebraska game a week ago.
Was that the one where the F-16s flew over?
Yeah.
That was our F-16s.
Oh, is that our?
Yeah.
Is that?
Every one of those pilots.
I
know. Every single one of those pilots there.
Yeah, that's always the best part.
Oh, yeah. They had 4 in the air and 1 on the ground that they talked, with the timing of it and stuff.
Yeah, that's cool.
Yeah.
That always makes the game.
Oh, yeah.
It's just something about that roar. It just boom. And it's so fast.
I'll never miss that. Or, I will always miss that when I don't get to hear it. But I love, I get chances to go back for social events and things. And
Yeah.
I just took a volunteer position. So actually tomorrow I'm going to be helping some people right prior to them deploying.
Cool.
With the family volunteer group and what they call the key volunteer.
Nice.
So
Do you know this guy that lives on my home place now, right close to Lance Church? He's a pilot.
Dan Sanders
Yeah.
and his wife, they moved back to Montana.
Oh, they're back there now.
Yeah, they moved back
they
there.
moved back.
He retired and they
Okay.
moved back. Yeah, actually, I took a Portland trip almost a year ago, close to now. I threw all this podcast stuff in the Traverse and drove out there and filmed some podcasts. And I stayed at their place.
Oh, really?
Yep.
Cool.
Yeah. I tried to talk them into a podcast, but they're pretty humble, fairly shy, keep themselves. I mean, they're fun people and they're out there doing stuff, especially with their kids.
Yeah.
Keeping them involved with livestock and things.
So is he ranching now? Or?
They're on their home place. He and Tammy moved back.
Oh,
and
nice.
They've got, I think, 3 kids. Okay. And I think his mom is on the place right next door. And so he is actually on his own home place. He was showing me how they do flood irrigation, because they have ditches just run through the pastures and how they go put dams in and flood certain areas and then they move it down. Mm-hmm. Pretty cool. Yeah, I think the world of those guys.
Yeah. They bought that acreage, I guess. That was on my home place.
Okay, that's your home place, just east of the cattle yard there. Okay.
Yeah, and then my brother owned it for a while, and then he sold it to, I don't know who it was, Dwayne Peterson, I think it was.
Nice taking sips while we're doing this. I'm having a ball. I hope you're having fun with this too.
It's a good time.
Yeah, I love doing this, learning about people.
I didn't even know you did this stuff until you contacted me.
Yeah, I after I retired in November of 20, that following March, I bought a drone and started just doing some whatever I thought interesting, some filming. And through the years, I've taken people horseback riding at Newton Hills, and I made videos for them and their families. So once I started the YouTube channel, and it's called Jimbo, South Dakota, and I got permission from all those people, and just started uploading videos, random stuff. I don't make any money off it. I'm not trying to, and there's parameters to meet. If I meet those parameters, I won't turn it down, but I don't really care. Yeah. So I like putting a lot of variety on there. But then a year ago, last June, I watched some podcasts and a guy named Dale Brisby down in Texas, he's a cowboy comedian, but does a lot of podcasts, and some of them have been military. Oh, okay. And I got thinking about it, and I was like, that'd be kind of fun. Yeah. And this hog house, it's been developing for years, and we had a lot of functions here. Yeah. So there's a Facebook group, a hog house group also. So I just started posting pictures. I had like pictures from 90 different events that we had out here. So I just started posting that stuff, but then started with this. So now we post this way. Okay. And the military stuff I started, like I said, a year ago, last June. Most of them are military because that's what I know. Yeah. But we also did like the Canton girls wrestling team. Okay. And Pastor Chris's daughter. Yeah. And Luke Evian, Luke and Amy, their daughter. Right. And the coach came out and stuff. So nice. I'll give you the link to that. It was pretty fun. Yeah. And so I just got started doing that, and I love getting to know people better anyway. Yeah. So that's good. That's how it was. Good way to do it. Yeah. It is a ton of fun, a lot of fun. So, do you have? We talked about patriotism. Do you have a proudest moment? And I know people are humble and they don't like to talk about this stuff, but this is the time and this is the place. Do you have a most proud moment for your service? The thing that stands out is when they played the national anthem in prison camp and they hoisted the flag up. Yes. There was a bunch of us bawling our eyes out when that happened.
Same effect to you
doubt.
too.
Oh, absolutely.
I know, me too. I was just, I never, it always etched in my mind.
Mm-hmm.
I think about that many times.
Yep.
And that just kind of set everything in stone.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yep, I think that was my proudest moment.
Right. Now, this part is usually not so fun, but what was it like coming home?
Well, depends on where it was. When I was in Chicago, I didn't like it at all. There was the reactions, we didn't go very far from the hospital once I became an outpatient.
Mm-hmm.
We kind of watched where we went because we knew there's some bad feelings. And I know the most we got was silence. That was the best we got.
Right.
The worst we got was, we didn't get attacked, but we had slurs. I heard slurs. But when I got back to this community, it was pretty good. Much better, I'll say that. But there was at times a lot of it's like they didn't know what to say.
Mm-hmm.
You could tell they were glad we were back, but they didn't want to talk about it. Like how anything about what you did.
Right.
Just silence. Because I think they were kind of afraid to talk about it. But they've heard all these stories about these Vietnam vets, crazy vets that Hollywood put out.
Mm-hmm.
And I think they were just a little, scared to say anything because of all these crazy stories they'd heard. And so it was mixed, I'd say. Most of the people were very good. Now, when I was in the hospital in Chicago, a lot of the guys hardly got any letters. There's probably 30 guys in my area with a wall between another 30 guys. So there's a lot of guys around. And so I could visually see when mail call came, hardly any of them got letters. And that, you could tell it messes you up.
Mm-hmm.
But Lance Church, I came right after I got there in Chicago. This mail lady, she was a mail lady, she was the same person, came with all the mail. And she came and dumped this whole bag she had on my bed.
Oh, my word.
And she says, "Are you a celebrity?" I said, "What do you mean?" She said, "These are all for you."
Nice.
And I said, "Really?" So I started going through them. It was all from the Lance area.
Mm-hmm.
And everybody was just looking at me. So I said, "Yeah, I'm a rock star." And I laughed. She says, "No, you're not."
Wow.
But yeah,
Pretty
so
special
I got
people.
a lot of support from this area.
Yeah.
So I
lot
felt
of
a
special
lot better.
people in Lands,
Yep.
and Mo Parish, Romsdal,
Yep.
Trinity, the three
The
churches.
all of them.
That's,
So I was
that's
really
awesome that they did that for you.
I was very, very humbled by that.
That's amazing.
So yeah, it was, and a lot of guys never got a letter, and that's unforgivable.
Mm-hmm.
If you got family that's serving, write them, because that's the most, or do your video thing.
Yep.
Any communication is really important.
Yes. And luckily, like you alluded to, it's so much easier nowadays.
Yes.
Phones, video, phone chat,
Mm-hmm.
all that. But there are tons of people out there that don't have anybody to do that with.
Right.
That's the part that you can't control. There's so much loneliness out there.
Yep.
And people need to keep their eye out for people that are lonely.
Yeah.
And not just vets, but vets, they have 22, on the average, 22 suicides a day
Yep.
nationwide
I know.
with veterans.
Yeah, and and when you're at your low point, I said one low point, but there were more than one. Another one was on Christmas Eve, and I was on guard duty that night for the boat. They always had one guy up and watching things, and it was Christmas Eve, and you always think in your family what they're doing. You know what they're doing. They're opening presents and having a great time.
Mm-hmm.
And you're sitting there all by yourself. I remember it was a moonlit night, and you're sitting out there in the middle of the jungle someplace, halfway across the world. And it's a lonely, lonely time. And so if you can send them like cookies or letters or all of the above, do it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I know there's been a couple times where loneliness hit me a little bit, and I'm sitting there looking at the moon, and then in my head, I'm just saying, they're looking at that same moon at their nighttime. Just trying to that type of a connection.
Yep.
A universal connection because you are so far away.
Yep. So, and if they can get stuff to you, at least you'll bide your time looking at stuff and eating. That's always good.
Yeah, yeah.
Especially homemade stuff.
Yeah, my first time in Iraq, and I was there 3 times, but the hospital, the base that I was at, the hospital was still a tent hospital. The first time I was there, and I would help on my off time unload helicopters, and a lot of it was local people that had been injured and things. And I contacted my wife, Mary, and she contacted the church, Mill Parish, all 3 churches, and I had a list of things that the hospital could use because, technically you're not taking care of all the civilian people and things. So they gathered up kids and women's and men's, clothing, diapers, all the, I can't think of the word right now, but toothpaste, toothbrush, Bio stick, all that kind of stuff.
Yep.
And then they went even farther. And I don't know if it's Love Inc. that's got some ties to like wheelchair revamping and also some children wheelchair stuff. And all it was that one, I think it was a phone call with my wife. And then she told me, she said, just wait a while, you're going to be getting something. And we got all kinds of stuff sent to us. And then we were able to go distribute that. Yeah. And then the people that worked in the hospital, I asked them to do the distribution. And, and those that allowed us, we took some pictures and things, but you got to be kind of careful with that. Yeah. On all that. So once again, Mill Parish coming through. Yeah. So kudos to all you guys.
Yeah, that's for sure.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Did you know of, or have you ever attended like Vietnam Vet Day or POWMIA Day? Any of those?
Yeah, in Canton they had, they have that once a year for Vietnam vets.
Is that it was
for everybody really, but that one time they had it just for Vietnam.
Was that like in March?
I'm not sure.
The one I went to was in Sioux Falls at the DAV, and I think it was like maybe 29 March or something. This year, it happened to be on Good Friday. Easter was so early. Yeah. So it's not based on Good Friday, but they do that every year. And apparently there, I think, are like 7 South Dakotans that are still on that list. So they actually had 7 flags for POWMIA. Oh, yeah. And I think
there's 7 on them?
There's, I think that's what it was. Put in the comments if I'm wrong, if anybody knows. But I believe it was 7, and they read their names and other information. But that day happens every year. Yeah. And so I went to that one, and then I got invited down to Lenox and went down there and invited people to do this, actually. Okay. We've got 1 or 2 guys coming up that are going to be, that I met through that area or that from that way. And then I also, a guy that I met at the DAV invited me to the POW MIA Day at the DAV, but he let me know last Thursday, but it was last Friday when I was heading up to Duluth to do another one of these with some friends. The one that Paul Haitian went with me on.
Yeah.
Him and Rex Stark.
Okay.
So anyway, that podcast might be right after yours.
Oh,
so you'll see Paul on camera.
Okay.
He didn't talk much though, which is
He didn't?
a little
That's
unusual.
unusual. Yeah.
Yeah. So those 2 days in particular, and I didn't bring it out here, but I don't know if you've ever seen it, but there's a book on Vietnam vets, and it's about this big and about that thick, and it says Vietnam vets still coming home, stories in their own words. And when we're done here, I'll show you that book.
Okay.
I don't know if you know Larry Tenniger. He used to live in Alcester, good friends with Paul. We did a 2-part podcast with him. He was a combat medic in Vietnam and then rejoined later to go over to Iraq later in his years.
He isn't that wrestler guy, is he?
He's built like it. He's like this tall. He's got like 17 powerlifting records.
Oh, that's what it is. Powerlifting. That's what it was. Yeah. Yeah, I know who he is.
I'll give you the link to his podcast. It's pretty interesting.
He's a pretty stout guy.
And still is. Yeah. And there's a couple more guys that are, so he's in that book. There's a couple more guys in the book that are going to interview at the DAV maybe in a month or so. But it's a pretty interesting book, very, very well put together. So that's pretty cool. So based on your answer on how you were received at home, so there was probably never any official welcome home or anything that you attended even later years?
Not really until, which governor was that? He's a senator now.
Dusty Johnson?
No,
Or he's a rep?
the other guy. He was governor also. No, he's a senator.
Oh, yeah. Senator Rounds.
Rounds. I can't remember. He put on a big deal in Pierre, and we went to that.
You did?
That was awesome.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because I was going to say, a lot of people haven't had that. So I was going to say myself, just welcome home. And
thank you.
Thank you for your service, Al.
You're very welcome.
It's,
same to you.
It's amazing things that you've gone through. Yeah. And thank you. But I don't have a hole in my elbow and scars on my side and all that stuff. So, but it was just a great thing you serve in your country.
Thank you.
In that way. Now I'm going to go ahead and scan some of these. I don't want to miss anything. And I believe we've covered everything on here that I had questions for. Doesn't mean we're done. So what other things come to mind as far as serving, on your boat or maybe off your boat? Did you have much time in Vietnam where you weren't tied to that boat?
Not a whole lot. The most, like I said, I think before, maybe 2 or 3 days we'd clump together. And I was almost, shortly before I got hit, I was due for R&R to Australia. I had put in for it, and I got it, and I think it was like 2 weeks, and I would have been out in R&R, but I missed it.
I thought each person was allowed R&R about halfway through.
Yep.
So you were a little past halfway through anyway.
Yeah,
and you got hit.
Yeah, and this buddy of mine, Mike, we had all these plans other than going to Saudi Arabia. When we went to Australia, we had all, because we had heard about the Australian girls are really something.
I wondered if that's where you were going.
Yeah, that's where I was going. We were all up for that, and darn it, I missed it.
I interviewed Eldon Nygaard. He's the one that gave me that book, and he was a chopper pilot.
Oh, yeah.
And he was talking about how when they had gone on R&R, and also when he came back, the transition into the miniskirt just about threw him for a loop.
Oh, yeah.
I don't know if that was hitting Australia the same time it did in the U.S. here or what.
I suppose it's pretty close, I don't know. But yeah, we had big plans, but it didn't work out. So
Yep.
but maybe that's the better. I don't know. You never know what path, you go down at times.
Yep. Yeah. Well, you found Sue over here.
Yeah,
Good
so-
on you on that.
Absolutely. Best thing that ever happened.
There you go. There you go. What other things you think?
Well, I don't want to talk about my college days.
No. Similar to that
It was,
untraveled Australia trip.
yeah, it was not very educational. Well, in certain things it was, but
Oh,
not
yeah.
in the right
Yeah.
things.
But you are a jackrabbit then.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
My daughter, she graduated from USD, and so did one of my sons, Chris. He graduated from USD, so I got nobody up to state. So
Mm-hmm. So does that make Thanksgivings are interesting and
Yeah.
such, or do you just stay away from
Well,
those?
I just kind of go with the flow,
Yeah. Have you three attended a game where they play each other?
Not together. We haven't. No, not yet. So my daughter Jenny and I went to the Nebraska game together. Sue was going to go, but Jenny takes a camper down with her and rents a lot right by the stadium. But it's about almost a mile away. And I did it again. And so she decided Sue didn't want to do all that walking.
That's a ways to track.
Yeah. So my niece, Jenny's daughter, her roommate or her friend wanted a ticket and couldn't get it. So I told her, I said, you can have my wife's ticket. So Jenny and my niece and her friend we all went together. And so that was a great time. It was hot that day. It was 85 or something, 87. But we had seats way up high, which was great because we got some breeze up there. Because the game started at 6:30, so it was still warm when he started.
Right.
But it was really nice.
And it's been unseasonably warm here lately
yeah.
anyway.
Yeah.
That's why we delayed this 1 week.
Yeah.
Being locked in the hog house here, so we don't have any.
That's really nice today.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we're not sweating like crazy
Yeah.
here.
I'm a sweater too, so
Yeah.
it'd be bad.
Yeah, I did one with 4 of the guys from the POL shop, the fuel shop over out in the guard there. And
Yeah.
toward the end, we were getting a little shiny in here.
I get soaked. It drips off my nose, and that's funny. Like in Nam, we didn't even wear shirts because it just soaked through and it was wet. You're better off just take your shirt off. A lot of times I was in combat with sandals on and shorts
Oh, man.
and a flak jacket. I put my flak jacket on, but
So no, me, I can't have my feet exposed.
Oh.
If I was wearing shorts and no shirt and a flak vest, I would still have my boots on. I would have to.
okay.
Wow.
Well, another
In
bad
battle
thing
that way.
boots is in the mornings we always had to, if we wore boots, we had to shake them out because them doggone spiders would get in there, and some of them were lethal or
Right.
close to lethal, or snakes even too. We had one time on a boat we had what they call a 7-stepper snake, bites you and you're dead in 7 steps.
Really?
And they're not big; they're about this big.
Right.
They look like a big garter snake. They're gray in color. But we were sitting there having a poker game. We had a bunch of Vietnamese troops on the boat, and they're all surrounding us watching the game, trying to figure it out. And one guy, I had a hand, I was dealing the cards, and this one guy goes, he slaps him on the back really hard, and I turned around and he started stomping on this. And it was one of those 7-steppers. Had crawled up on my back, and I didn't even know it.
Crawled up?
Yeah, he was right on my back. Right
I thought you were
there.
going to say he was dropped down,
No.
but he would have felt that.
He crawled up my chair, I guess, and then onto my back, and I didn't even feel him. But he brushed him off and stomped him out, and he goes, "He number 10, number 10."
Wow.
So that was, I had forgot about that till it just came to mind. But yeah, that was kind of a weird deal.
Man.
Another time we had one time we had to throw percussion grenades over into the water every so often because we had trouble with divers coming under and planting bombs on,
Oh, yeah.
on boats. So if you threw a percussion grenade, would happen to, if there was a diver in there, it'd kill him. Well, one time we threw a percussion grenade over, and all of a sudden this anaconda floated to the surface. It was probably from here to that wall. What is that, 20 feet?
Yes. Yeah, it'd be like 25 feet from here over.
Yeah, it was about that length.
Man.
And we were all going, crap, we're swimming. We used to jump in when we were so hot.
Right.
Another time, though, this is starting to generate stuff now.
You bet.
Another time, I was out there swimming, and these Vietnamese are jumping out, up and down and pointing. And I was looking around, and it was one of those, not a stingray, but those, one of those electric eels.
Oh, yeah.
And I guess it swam right in back of me. And those things, I guess if you touch them, it zaps you and it'll kill you,
Yeah.
especially in water.
Mm-hmm.
And I was standing, so I was grounded. So I came running right back of me. And we swam in that kind of crap.
Right.
Jeez, it'd be nuts. But when it's 90 degrees and you're sweating and you're hot, you kind of take chances, you know.
Do you have any crocs over there?
I didn't see any. We saw a lot of water buffalo,
Mm-hmm.
but I didn't see any crocs.
How about scorpions?
Oh, we had all kinds of spiders. Oh, God, it was anything you want, they had it. That's like I tell you, every morning you shook out everything. And well, the first night I was on the boat, you know, they had issued us mosquito netting. And I just kind of, whatever, put it under the bunk and went to bed. Got up in the morning. I could not flex my fingers. They were swollen, about double size.
Wow.
And my face, my throat swelled up. I was just sicker than heck. But we had taken malaria shots and all that stuff, so we were kind of bulletproof on that. But next night, I had that mosquito netting over my bunk,
Mm-hmm.
and every night after that.
Wow.
So they kind of learned. I mean, they had mosquitoes like you, and I don't know how those Marines go in those jungles and stay in there for weeks in that stuff.
Yeah, my uncle in the Army with the 2 tours, a comm guy, man, he had stories, you know, about like that and always being wet.
And you get foot rot too.
Yeah. You know, never getting dry. Were you there through a monsoon season?
Oh yeah.
How did that work on the boat?
Oh man, it was the strangest thing. About 4 o'clock in the afternoon, you'd see the clouds come up, and it was like you're pouring out of a bucket. I mean, you could hardly breathe. And then in a couple hours, it'd be all gone. Moon would come out, and fine.
You had bilge pumps on the boat so that would empty them out?
Yeah, we had bilge pumps, yeah.
Did you ever have troubles with him quitting?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. We had
During the monsoon?
We had one guy that was kind of the mechanic of the boat, and he always did that stuff.
Right.
I'm a gunner's mate, so I kind of dealt with the guns. And we could do each other's job, but everybody kind of had a preference, so we kind of did that. But yeah, he was always down there doing the bilges. Thank goodness he did it. But yeah, that was another thing. I think that's well, we had rats too.
I was just going to mention that. That's what my Uncle Glenn was talking about.
Oh,
And what follows the rats? Snakes.
but because they're hungry. but some of those rats, I don't know if probably the size. What are those short little dogs with short legs?
Like wiener dogs or chihuahuas or
No, the other ones. They're little.
like little hounds?
They're little thicker than wiener.
Beagles, basset hounds.
Yeah, it's not that, but they got little short legs, and they're kind of wide, and they had rats that were as big as those.
Yeah.
I mean, I had never seen a rat like that. But we were off the boat one time in some little hut, and there was one. It ran by us to around the hut, and I looked at it. And I thought it was a dog. And then I looked again, I thought, that's a rat, because you could see his tail then, you know.
Mm-hmm.
Jesus. No, they had things like that you don't even want to think about.
Right.
So
Yeah,
at least we
during
were
the-
on the water. We kind of had a little island, you know.
Yeah, because he didn't, you know, because the water would just come up, and they all try to get on high ground.
Yep.
The rats want to get on high ground, and the
Yep.
snakes, and just terrible.
Yeah. No, I thought we had it good compared to those guys.
Mhm.
I know they always told us we were crazy, and we thought the same about them because they had to live in the jungle.
Yeah, because the environmental part, you were lucky.
Yeah.
But being on the river,
Yeah.
you are a constant target.
Yeah, we're a
That's like
target.
we were talking about earlier when before we started about, you know, everything us, you know, people that just have seen movies and what have you, they're like, being on the river is not a good deal.
No,
And that's where you lived.
it had a high rate of casualties, and yep, it did have that. But at least I don't know. At least the living conditions were decent,
Yeah.
as long as you used your mosquito netting.
Yeah. So was there any time where you would spend, you know, a certain amount of time with your boats on the river, but then were you able to get away anywhere? Was there like a base you would go to for, like a mini R&R, or
Well-
was there any of that? Was there a place to have a beer once in a while?
Yeah, in Canto, that was a pretty good sized town, and we went in there a couple of times, and yeah, had some beer and a few other things, and yeah, we didn't. I mean, they had some pretty good places to eat. I've never really liked Chinese stuff, food, I guess you call it, and so I've never been real partial to that, but I did eat some pretty good dishes that I don't even know what they were, but a lot of rice and fish and stuff.
Did you or any of your buddies ever get sick after eating out in the community?
Oh, that hit me.
You?
Well, it wasn't really in the community. It was on the river. These sampans came up, and they're pretty smart people. It was always a woman and some kids.
Yep.
And what they had was popsicles, homemade popsicles. Oh, and it was one of those hot, humid days. So I got 2 popsicles from those little kids, gave them a little tip. And that night it hit me. I got dysentery. I got a fever. I got runs. I was puking. And the worst part of it was, they came up and asked me if I'd stand guard that night. I said, "Are you kidding me? I got 103 temperature. I'm not standing guard." I wouldn't have been of no use.
These are your friends asking you
Yeah.
that. Support as friends.
I just taken my temperature. I said, "It's 103." And then I puked and other stuff.
All you want to do is sleep.
Yeah, I just wanted to lay there.
And you're still on the boat
Yeah,
that whole time like that.
If we'd have been on combat, I'd have had to get up and man a gun.
Yeah.
I mean,
Well, a little different kind of adrenaline probably would
you-
kick in then, but if you didn't have to. So you're saying about a 10-foot wide boat, how long was it?
probably. Oh, I used to know this, and I've forgotten some of this, but it's 40 to 50 feet.
Yeah.
45,
So like
50.
from that corner to that corner is about 40 feet.
Yeah, maybe it was about 40 feet. That'd be about right.
And how many guys?
6.
10-foot wide, 40
Yeah.
feet, 6 guys. How much of it was covered, like
Well,
where you could get out of the rain and stuff?
we had a flight deck on it.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah, so that was all covered. But we had the gunnels. This is the side of the boat, and we're in the middle here. There was a gap probably that much. It was all clear, pretty much. And so that was all open. So that's where you could swing the guns, like that way. But I don't know, it was probably not as high as these rafters here, probably another foot shorter. So it was fine that way. And then we had bunks that folded out from the bulkhead, And
But at least you were undercover.
yeah, we were undercover. So when it rained, unless it was real heavy, but then we had some tarps that we could put down on that gap there that I was telling you about.
Right.
So if it rained and blew, then we could put those down. So we were pretty much out of the weather.
Mm-hmm.
Not out of the mosquitoes, but out of the rain.
Right. Wow.
But yeah, it was pretty good. We were from all over the country. We had one guy from New York, one guy from St. Louis, Missouri, me, and then South Dakota, and then we had one guy from the state of Washington. Our boat captain was from Los Angeles. So it was a pretty good, we're all parts of the country, which is kind of nice.
Makes for good conversations.
Yeah, and one guy from Georgia.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, we were pretty much covered. So, yeah, that was nice. You got to kind of talk to everybody and find out what was what.
Did you ever call each other by their state? Like,
Uh,
hey, New York, come over here. You know, any of that kind of stuff?
no.
That's more kind of basic training stuff and tech school.
We didn't do that, but we had a guy from New York. His name was Vigiano. He was an Italian guy.
Uh-huh.
And so we were having some beers one night, and I said, I've always wanted to know, I've always heard this expression, a wop. You know, what is a wop? It's Italian. I said, what does that mean? He says, well, you know, if you took a handful of shit and threw it against a wall, it goes wop. That's what I never knew that. And we got to be, friendly enough where I could ask him that without insulting him. Like, I didn't want to insult him.
Sure.
But I just wanted to know.
Huh.
And so I found that out. I mean, it's
crack another beer in the next conversation.
Yeah. I mean, you talk about everything just to talk, and find out things. So
when you were able to have a beer or something over there, was it American or was it from overseas?
I had both. They had American. They had everything. But I kind of like to try some of their stuff. Some of it wasn't so good, but there was a couple that were pretty good.
Yeah.
I didn't try any of their whiskey. Well, maybe I did. I didn't even. Yeah, we had one night where we really got into it, and I don't know. I was trying everything.
Got pretty greased.
Yeah, It was one of those deals where I remember we got back, on our boat, and they had steps up to the flight deck, and I was walking down the steps. I didn't make it down. I was sliding down from the second step on.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, nobody can fault you. I mean, just the stress that you're in, the situation you're in, where you're at, how long you're there, the training it took to get there, the experiences once you're there.
Yeah. You got to
have some off time.
I remember one time when the, what do they call it, USO came in, and a bunch of those women came over to our boats. We all fell in love. I had that one, and he had this one. It was just like, we called them round eyes, Americans.
Yep.
Some round eyes here. And they came over, and you could smell them from 30 feet away.
Oh, yeah.
They always wore, before I never really noticed it. Over there, you notice it.
Oh, yeah.
I goes, it was like, you just don't realize how you miss that kind of the opposite sex until you see them. And
yeah, and like you said earlier, just the advantages that we have in the U.S., the things that we've gotten used to, especially in the last 30 years. I don't know. You just there's all kinds of people in every generation, but just sometimes when you see things on TV and the internet, you just wish there's so many people that could have some experiences where they're just lacking in something, two things, whatever, to make them appreciate what they have, instead of being a bunch of whiners and stuff.
Yeah.
And
well, you hear about these, I hear these stories on the internet about these women that divorce their husbands because they're bored. I mean, come on. Yeah. That's your problem. Sometimes you get a little bored, but there's so many things you can do. I mean, anybody that has that for an excuse to leave a person, I don't have much sympathy for them.
Yeah.
Because they just haven't experienced really bad things.
Right.
And that's what that kind of gives us a leg up on some things because we have, we've experienced, and you have too, and you know what it's like to be down to almost zero.
Yeah. And my experiences were nothing like yours. I surfed for a long time, went to, Iraq 3 times and a bunch of other places, but
Well,
each time was only like 3 months long, and I never went outside the wire,
Well,
you know.
yeah, but it could have lobbed some stuff in.
Well, they did lob some stuff in there.
Yeah.
I think the closest one was about 200 feet from our shop.
Yeah.
Just a small thing, but it was such a big base. We call it the Golden BB. If you got hit by one of those, you're having a bad day.
That's really bad luck.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep. But there's intricacies for every deployment. When you got out, you got married shortly after.
Yeah.
Did you start farming right away?
Not right away. I went to school in Oregon, Portland, Oregon. I wanted to be an interior designer, and so I went to school and graduated out there. But I came back. Well, I had a job interview in Omaha, Nebraska. Some big store wanted to interview me because as soon as we graduated, we sent our resumes out and waited. And I thought, well, it's Midwest, it's not too far from home, so try that. But I wanted to stop at the folks first, and we had a little baby by that time. Shortly after school, Chris was born, and so we just wanted to stop to see the folks, and she wanted to see her folks because she's from Ireton, which is just a little east of Hayward. And so we could see our parents before we settled down, I guess you'd call it. And so we went to my parents and stayed there, and Dad, I told the folks, I said, well, I got an interview in Omaha, and so we'll be heading down that way. And he goes, well, before you go, maybe I ought to ask you if you want to be a partner in my farm.
After all this time.
Yeah, after all this stuff. And I thought, well, I don't know, maybe. And it was kind of, I did out of the blue. And, I always liked being in the country. And Sue just looked at me like, what? I could tell that look. You know the look.
Probably looking forward to city life.
Yeah. And she had been raised on a farm until she was about in 8th grade and then went living in town. And she never had good memories of the farm other than she liked nature, but the other part wasn't so good. But anyways, so then I couldn't sleep that night. I kept thinking, oh, geez, maybe I should do that. And I was thinking, nah, I'm not going to do that. And I think, well, maybe I could. Well, then by morning, I hadn't slept hardly at all. Sue goes, now you have to make up your mind. Now, what are you doing? She's kind of forward like that.
Yeah.
And I said, I don't know. I'm not sure. And so then we were there for a few days, so I didn't have to decide right then. So we were there a few days, and I kept mulling it over. And asking Dad's questions, and what do we do about this and that, and where do I get my loan to start? Because I have very little money. And by the end of the weekend, I decided I was going to farm. And then within a month, I think it was a month or two, I had this relative, Otto Fussum. He was selling his farm. I don't know if this is tied into Dad or what. He never said it did, but I just kind of wondered that he was selling his farm and looking for somebody. He would rather have somebody around the community buy it, but wanted to sell it. So he said, "You better check that out." So I said, "Okay." Well, I got to line up some financing because I think we had $3,000 in the bank.
Yep.
You can't buy a farm with $3,000. And so I said, well, Dad said, well, let's go down to the bank together and we'll talk it over. So we did. Went down to Alcester Bank and talked to Roger. He was president then. And he said, well, I can give you X amount of dollars and get you started, and we'll go from there. So we did.
Mm-hmm.
Started farming.
The rest is history there, huh?
Yeah. And so, but then, I don't know when it was, a few weeks later, Sue comes to me, she says, you lied to me. I said, no, I did not lie. I did not lie to you. She said, you were not going to be a farmer, and now you're a farmer. I said, really, I did not lie to you. I wasn't. It just, things happen.
Yep.
I just look at it as it was supposed to be, and it was.
The old thing of things happen for a reason.
Yeah.
You know, I'm a firm believer in that.
I think that's what it was.
Yeah.
I think my mother had prayed about it. I think that's what it was.
Yeah.
It wasn't a lie. I can tell you that.
There was new information introduced to the
Yep.
situation.
Yep, it does. So it's funny how you're taking these paths and you think you got it, and then all of a sudden you're over here.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah,
Yeah.
but it was a good decision, and we made it through pretty good. So
Yeah. Still going strong.
yeah.
Have you reduced it all?
Yeah, well, I quit the cattle a few years back, and that was a lot of that's a 24/7 deal.
Right.
And now I just do crops and then my son, he helps me in the spring and the fall, so everything goes good.
Nice.
So yeah, it's getting about time to rein it in, maybe.
Mm-hmm. Now, did you have any hobbies when you were young before you went in the military? And do you have any hobbies now that you're going to pursue a little more once you fully retire?
Not really true hobbies. I like to go to football games, and I played football in high school and loved it. Didn't in college, but I did in high school. And
What was your position?
I played guard.
Mm-hmm.
Defensive guard. I couldn't move anybody, but I could get around them.
Grab somebody around the legs as they went by.
Yeah, or I was pretty fast.
Agility is the key.
Pretty fast, and I usually beat the guy, so I could get around him.
Mm-hmm.
And it wasn't that I could move anybody because I wasn't big enough. But
What'd you weigh?
probably 150.
Yeah, I was about the same in high
Dripping
school.
wet.
Yeah.
I was probably cheating a little. When they put that on the brochures, they always add a little weight.
Yeah. I was 145, and
Yeah.
for a couple of years they put 165 on
Yeah.
the roster. I was a center,
Yeah,
small center.
yeah. But, like you said, if you got enough speed and I was a country kid and I'd hauled a lot of bales, I was pretty strong.
Yeah.
And so, and I had a good speed, so I did it. So, but in college, I wasn't big enough.
Yeah.
I knew I was smart enough to know that, no,
Mm-hmm.
not doing that.
Yeah.
You're good.
Preserve your knees and your body and
Yes.
everything else.
We lived right across the hall from a kid from Hayward that was a halfback. He was all state Iowa. He was really good, and he played for South Dakota State. And boy, he said there is a big difference when you jump up to college. He said everybody's fast and everybody's bigger. It's different.
Yeah. Then you get to D1 level,
and that's
then
even
those
higher.
that go to NFL after that.
That's even higher.
Oh yeah, it's
Just, from high school to pro is like a mountain.
yeah.
It's just highest level. It's so high that you don't even.
Right.
I've been to several. I go to Packer games,
Mm-hmm.
and I've been to several of those, and it's just awesome watching them warm up.
Yeah.
Especially watching quarterbacks throw that ball. I mean, that's just on the line.
Uh-huh.
It's so different. Oh, I don't know how they do it.
Mm-hmm. A lot of talent out there.
Oh yeah, and even the linemen are fast.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, I've seen them run down backs,
Mm-hmm.
and it's just crazy. And I can't imagine what it feels like to be hit by an NFL lineman.
Couldn't imagine.
No, it's like hitting the truck.
Yeah. How about any future hobbies?
Let's see. I guess lake. We have lake property, and
Do you go
yeah,
there in the wintertime?
we go up there. Yeah, they have ice races up there,
Oh, nice.
and then there's I don't ice fish, but a lot of guys ice fish. But it's fun watching those races. Our house is right by the lake, and part of the race goes right by our house. So it's fun. I just sit out or stand out in the lawn and watch them.
What lake?
It's Long Lake. It's right across the lake from Lake Madison.
Oh, okay.
I mean, I can throw a rock into Lake Madison.
Mm-hmm.
And now they just sold a area east of us, sold 90 lots on there. So they're developing that area. And when we built our house, I think there was like 6 houses there, and now there's a lot more coming in, building all the time.
Right.
So yeah, that's kind of my hobby is the lake. We go up. I got a tractor up there and everything. Got a big shed, and we've got a pontoon and a wave runner and kayaks, and so I'm doing all that stuff.
Mm-hmm. A lot of family visit.
Yep, that's the thing I really love about it.
Right.
Kids come up and my grandkids come up,
Yeah.
and it's just great.
Yeah.
I love it.
Having something like that, the point is to share it.
Yep.
Otherwise, you can sit there by yourself
Yep.
and say, oh, this is awesome.
Yeah.
By
No.
myself.
No. It's family. It's all family
You bet.
and friends.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
yeah, I love that. I guess that's my hobby,
Right.
and I'm always working up there.
I'm glad you said you had a shed.
Yeah.
So you've got some place to go
Oh,
instead
yeah.
of just get out of the 4 walls of the house and
Oh, yeah.
get out and do something.
Yeah, we got also in that shed we have a room, call it a game room.
Mm-hmm.
We've got a pool table, shuffleboard, and what's that?
Foosball.
Foosball. Yeah, we got about everything, and then we got that basketball thing you do.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's why we made that room. So like on gray, crappy days, we can go and play games
Mm-hmm.
inside the shed there. So yeah,
How many bedrooms in the house?
4
Yeah. Plenty big then.
4 bedrooms, 3 bathrooms.
You're
and,
set.
yeah, it's about 3,000 square feet, I think it is. Yeah.
Well, you guys have worked hard all your life, and
Yeah, you got to play a little.
yep, exactly.
You got to.
Yeah. So did any other stories come to mind while we were talking of your military experience or anything else?
Well, this is before I got over to Nam, but when I was in school, we went to a rock concert. This kid from I was friends with this kid from it wasn't L.A. It was another town right around there, but he had tickets, and we went to a rock concert, and we were all military. And this was time when 60s, the hair was down here. And we stuck out like a sore thumb. It was funny. I got stopped by I don't know how many people and asked for money.
Mm-hmm.
They must have known I was military, so they figured I was going to. Military people don't usually have a lot of money on them.
No.
That's what puzzled me. But being I was clean cut, I don't know what it was. And there was usually, I think there's always like 4 of us that went to get four buddies, and they always stopped me. And I must look like a sucker because the other 3 they never did. But I got tired of that. Hey man, you got some bread? And I said no. I was truthful. I didn't have much.
Yeah. Didn't have to lie.
We saw all these rock groups. And I was going to tell you the story about that experience. Deep Purple was there, and there's big bands. It was like, it went all day long. It was like 5, 6, 7, I don't know how many there were. Animals, the Animals were there. I don't know if you heard of them.
Mm-hmm.
They were there. And anyways, we were sitting there looking like all clean cut. There's four in that whole concert with her clean cut. That was us four. And anyways, all of a sudden, the crowd started parting. You know, we were sitting kind of in the back, and all of a sudden, you could see people moving and we look, here's the Hells Angels.
Oh, really?
There was about 20 of them came busting, and that's what they were doing. They're busting through the crowd. And it went all the way down to the front, right in front of the stage. Jeez. What are they doing, you know? But they were just decided they were going to go right in the front. So they just went right through the people.
Yeah.
I thought,
nobody's going to say no to a
Nobody did.
20 crowd of Hell's Angels, the true Hell's Angels.
yeah, they had the Hells Angels. And I guess you don't want to put that on your coat if you're not a Hells Angel.
Oh, no.
They'll kill you.
Yeah.
Because that's a no-no. So I know they're real.
Mm-hmm.
So that was kind of a strange thing that I'd never seen before. It's kind of a scary thing.
Oh, yeah.
But that was, you know, back in the late 60s. That was 68, I suppose. So another thing out there, I saw that, you know, I was a country boy from rural America, had dealt with motorcycles. I was standing on a corner waiting for a bus one time, and these motorcycle guys came roaring up. They always, it was so loud you couldn't hear. And there was this blonde woman standing a few feet away from me, dressed to the T's, blonde, had just really nice looking. And here this guy comes roaring up in his motorcycle, and they start talking. I couldn't really hear what they were saying. And she jumps on the back, and they took off. I thought, boy, we got no chance. When they go with somebody like that.
Yeah.
God, that just blew my mind. I just couldn't believe.
Mm-hmm.
Almost wanted to tell her, you know, your mama. What would your mama say if she saw you do that? But that, you know, people out there, that's a whole different culture.
Mm-hmm.
So that was a kind of a wake-up call to me.
Right.
I don't think I ever want to marry anybody from the West Coast. That's different.
Where did Sue grow up?
In Ireton.
Ireton. Okay, yeah,
Yeah.
you mentioned that over there.
Yeah,
Yep.
she went to Haywarden High School.
Yeah, it's right close here.
Mm-hmm. So she's a Midwesterner.
Mm-hmm.
Her dad owned a bar, and her mom was a hairdresser. So, yeah, they were just regular people.
Yeah. So, had your wife? How many kids did you have?
We had three.
3.
Yeah.
How many grandkids do you have?
3.
3.
Yeah.
All from the same family.
Well, no. I got to correct that. We had 3. Now we got 7.
Mm-hmm.
Because Chris is marrying a gal that's got 3 kids.
Got some kids.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I forgot about that.
Yeah. Well, it's cool.
They're
Make the
not
family-
married yet, so it's actually not official. So
Sure. Coming up though.
yeah.
Make the family bigger.
Yeah. Yeah. They're nice. They're nice kids.
Yeah. Big families are awesome.
Yeah.
You bet.
So we welcome them in.
Oh yeah. You bet. So based on that, I asked quite a few people to answer this question. Underneath that center camera there, figure that you've got about 15 great grandkids sitting there that maybe get a chance to see this and see what you did with your life. What would you like to tell them as some advice or just statements or whatever? What would you tell your great grandkids if they get a chance to see this?
Well, I can say this. I love them all. And they're really good kids, and I'm proud of every one of them.
Yep.
And if you're looking for any advice, just believe in yourself and trust God.
That's the best thing you could say right there.
Yep.
Yep. Trust God. Yep.
Yep. I had many times that was the only thing I could rely on. When you're in certain situations, that's what you got.
Yep. Yep. My favorite verse. It's 46:10. I'm trying to remember if it's Ephesians or what. I don't think it is that, but it's short and sweet, and it says, "Be still, and know that I am God."
Yeah.
That's my favorite. So
Yeah.
there's some good advice just to keep talking to him.
Yep. And anybody that's ever been in a war or tough situations, that's one thing you can always go to. And I did. Yep. Got me through.
All right. Well, I think we'll close it on that note. And thank you so much
You bet.
for agreeing to do this. I had a great time getting to know you better.
Yeah, I did. I had a good time too.
You bet. All right. Well, we will go ahead and close this out, and we'll get her edited up, and
Thanks.
and we'll make sure that all your family and everybody gets a chance to see this.
Okay. Thanks for having me.
You bet. All right. Thanks for watching.
Hell, wow. It lasted longer than I thought it would.
Yeah, it
That went by fast.
Yep. It usually does.